wala tayong balak mangaway. Pero kailangan ding mabatid ng mundo na handa tayong ipagtanggol ang atin.
It is a semi-enclosed body of water surrounded by several Southeast Asian countries, including the Philippines and China. The South China Sea covers the Paracel and Spratly Islands, as well as the Scarborough Shoal, or what Filipinos call as the Panatag Shoal. These areas are being claimed in whole or in part by several countries like China, Philippines, and Vietnam. China claims the largest portion of the South China Sea. Several years ago, it issued what it calls the 9-line map to show the world that it owns the Paracel, Spratly Islands, as well as the other surrounding areas. This year, China created another map called the 10-line, which shows its extended claim over areas in the contested territory. All of these claims, China says, are all based on historical accounts and international laws. Unlike China, the Philippines claims only parts of the South China Sea. In 2012, President Benigno Aquino III signed an executive order which renames areas in the South China Sea within the country's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, as West Philippine Sea. Areas that are part of the West Philippine Sea include the Scarborough Shoal and the Calayan group of islands in the Spratlys. These are areas believed to be rich in oil and gas and are considered as important habitat for fish and other marine organisms. China's 9-line claim overlaps several areas covered by the Philippines' EEZ, which was created based on the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. Since its forced occupation of the Mischief Reef, China has insisted that it has sovereign rights over the said areas, and even asserted its military muscle to push the Philippines away from the disputed territories. The 2012 standoff in the Scarborough Shoal was among the most aggressive encounter that happened between the Philippines and China. Also in the same shoal, the Philippines said China fired water cannon at Filipino fishermen to drive them away. These Filipino fishermen were reportedly just seeking shelter there during inclement weather.
Mayroon po tayong mga meron na nagsasabing, hayaan na lang ang baho di masinlok, umiwas na lang tayo. Pero kung may pumasok sa iyong bakuran at sinabi sa kanya na ang kanyang kinatatayuan ay sa kanya na, papayag ba kayo? Di naman po yata tamang ipimigay na lang natin sa iba ang sadyang ating talaga.
But does the Philippines has a military might to face China should the maritime dispute turns into an armed conflict? Experts and even the Philippine government itself say no. The continuous military posturing of China in areas in the West Philippine Sea seemed to have made the Aquino administration realize that an international arbitration could be the only way to resolve the problem. After exhausting all other possible ways to resolve its maritime dispute with China, the Philippines decided to file a case before an international arbitral tribunal to challenge China's 9-line claim over parts of the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine government has consistently argued that China's 9-line claim is contrary to UNCLOS, the law considered to be the world's constitution on the seas and oceans. The Philippines also accused China of interfering with the country's lawful exercise of its rights within its legitimate maritime zones and areas part of its territory. These are just some of the salient points highlighted by the Philippines in the arbitrational proceedings it seeks against China. In March this year, the Philippines submitted to the arbitral tribunal its 4,000-page written memorial or argument against China's claims. China was also ordered to submit its counter-memorial until December 15, but refused to do so, saying it does not acknowledge the Philippines' case. Aside from that, it also questions the tribunal's jurisdiction over the said case.
So, we are hoping that without China's participation, the court's consideration of the case would be advanced, would be fast-tracked, and hopefully by early next year, we will have a decision from the arbitral tribunal.
But despite this, the Philippine government remains confident that the arbitral tribunal will rule in its favor.
We are confident that our case is strong because with regard to maritime entitlements, we believe that the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea is the governing law that defines the maritime entitlements of coastal states. And if we are to base our maritime claims based on UNCLOS, then definitely we have a very strong case.
And the danger here is China has threatened to pull out of UNCLOS. No? observing correctly that even the United States is not even a party to the UNCLOS, if it feels that the tribunal will exercise jurisdiction in a matter that it considers as being contrary to UNCLOS. No? So I think if we lose, it's not because the rules are not to our favor, but because the tribunal has made a decision that UNCLOS will become stronger with China as a party rather than with China opting out of the UNCLOS altogether.
However, there are some who believe that the Philippines arbitration case will fail since China refuses to abide by the UNCLOS and that it will just continue to insist to hold bilateral talks, an approach the Philippines refuses to use.
By insisting on a bilateral approach, negotiations and consultation, China will be negotiating from a position of strength because it is militarily more powerful, it is economically stronger.
The Philippines is currently seeking international support for its case. United States President Barack Obama has recently expressed support for the Philippines' stand in the sea dispute, saying that its commitment to defend the Philippines is ironclad. Currently, the Philippines is also seeking support for a moratorium on moves that worsen tensions in the South China Sea. It also pushes for a code of conduct in the disputed territory that China seemed to disregard. In his previous State of the Nation address, President Aquino announced his administration's plan to file an international case against China. The promise has been granted, but the question now is how long will it take before the issue on the sea dispute could be resolved?
It's a complicated issue, first of all because there are several claimant countries to the territories in the South China Sea. We are hoping with the step that we took, the arbitration case, so hopefully with the decision, there would be more clarification as to the maritime entitlements, not only of the Philippines and China, but all claimant countries in the South China Sea.
It would take a very long time because even if we prevail in the arbitration, it will not solve the disputes over disputed islands. It will only resolve the issues that we submitted to the arbitral tribunal for resolution, which will not include the issue of who owns which islands in the Spratlys group of islands.
And what if the Philippines case fails?
There's a myriad of options which is provided in the UN Charter itself. Of course, we go back to negotiations, then we can avail of good offices, then we can avail of mediation. Any peaceful means will have to be resorted to.
The filing of a case against China is among the developments in the pursuit of the Aquino administration to defend the Philippines' sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea. But there's no definite assurance yet as to whether the case will succeed. The government is confident that it will, but there are some who doubt it. And if the government fails, there are those who see other ways to push for the Philippines' right to its own territories. But what matters now is that the rights of the Filipinos in their own land are being respected, and that the Philippine government should never stop in its endeavor to assert for what is really owned by Filipinos. For GNN Sona 2014, I'm Darlene Basingan.